before we get into the show, remember, guys, this podcast posts each and every single Monday. So if you like Dolphins content, please go check out the channel and support the content in any way you can. Obviously, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this game. This game was one of the craziest games I have ever seen as a Dolphins fan. I mean, you talk about, before we get into the box score, you talk about, we were down 21-10. They scored 21 points in the third quarter. We were down 21-10 the fourth, I think, at the start of the fourth. And obviously, once they hit that back shoulder throw to Allen Robinson, I thought the game was pretty much over. Just the way that Matt Nagy was calling games, the way that Bears offense was moving. They pretty much moved the ball the entire game. They did a really good job on first and second down. Every third down that they had was literally 5 yards or shorter, which is almost impossible to defend, especially since they have a really good outside receiver and Allen Robinson. Obviously, have good slots and Anthony Miller. Obviously, Taylor Gabriel he's a really, really good route runner, and he put Toy McTyer on skates a couple times in this game. So, this was one heck of a game, and one heck of an emotional victory. I don't think I've ever screamed so many times. I've never seen so many dramatic runs for touchdowns, dramatic runs, period, especially in overtime. The ups and downs of football is ridiculous. You could be on cloud 9 1 second, and you could be your heart falls through your entire body the next. It's ridiculous. And that's what this game was. It was an up and down affair the entire game. So let's get into the box score. And I want to say this again. I forgot to say this, but this was a huge win, period, because the quality of opponent that we played. We didn't have our starting quarterback, which is a whole other thing we're going to get into. To get this victory at home against a very good Bears team is huge, because these are the kind of wins you have to get on your schedule, and these are huge wins when you beat opponents at that high of a level, especially since your team is reeling with injuries. We are riddled with injuries right now, especially on the defensive side of the football, not to mention our starting quarterback didn't play. This was a huge victory for this team to get back on track. It was a huge emotional victory, especially the last 2 weeks, especially last week, especially since how we lost that game. We clearly should have won that game. So this team, I keep saying it, this team's a very good football team, and I really do believe in this team, and I believe in this coaching staff. And again, Adam Gase proves. People forget in 2016 how injured that football team was, and he led them to 10 wins. That team was really hurt. We had some pretty bad football players out there at times, and we still found ways to win. And in this game, we played a very good Chicago Bears team with very limited. We had, our defensive line was destroyed. Woodard got hurt at one point in this game. He's actually playing very well since he's got in. And I'm ranting, but my point is this was a huge, huge victory for this team because of the quality of opponent and because of the injuries to this football team. Just a great all-around effort, great game plan going into this game. And we're going to get into that when we get into the offense. But this team, I feel like, has found its identity finally. And not that they didn't have it, but they just really didn't stick to it. And we're going to get into that here in just a second. So let's get into the box score. The Bears are obviously the final score. 31-28 in overtime. We're going to start with the defense. Mitch Trubisky finished 22 of 31 passing. He had 316 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception. So obviously we're going to start with the secondary on defense. Receiving, Taylor Gabriel finished with 5 receptions for 110 yards, and he averaged 200. He averaged 22 catches, 22 yards a catch. Tariq Cohen, 7 receptions for 90 yards, averaged 12 yards a pop there. Allen Robinson, 5 receptions for 64 yards. Anthony Miller, 1 reception. Obviously, that was basically a backbreaker. 1 reception for 29 yards and a touchdown. Trey Burton had 4 catches for 23 yards. And that's one consistent thing that we've been really good on tight ends this year. We really have. Usually, every tight end in the National Football League had a good game against us, but this year we're doing a very good job of defending, especially in the middle of the field. This game, there was a couple, obviously, the one big play, and there was actually two very big plays in the middle. One was Tariq Cohen on a little angle route out of the backfield, and the other one was obviously to Anthony Miller for the big time touchdown there. But overall, I felt like obviously Torrey McTyer played very poorly, but I mean some of the plays that were made against him were ridiculous. I mean, there was the one go route was just 1,000% his fault. That was bad defense, but I would have to go back and look at that one because Taylor Gabriel, I mean, he was running routes like a madman. I mean, he really had a really good day, and it's very hard to defend a great route. I mean, it really is. It wasn't like Torrey was just getting squared up and beat on like nothing, and but he didn't obviously didn't have a great game. Bobby's coming back soon, so that's great news for us. But again, Taylor, he had great routes. To be honest with you, the secondary played pretty well. Obviously, T.J. McDonald coming out with that huge interception in the end zone. There was a couple really. I mean, there was one. I mean, most of the pass interference. Well, actually, I'll take that back. Both of the pass interferences that I'm thinking of, the one that was on the deep ball, that Torrey McTyer was defending, where Rashad Jones is over the top. I didn't like that call. I didn't think that was a good call. I thought that was very ticky tacky, to be honest with you. And the same thing with Minka's deflection. I think it was on Allen Robinson. I thought that was ticky-tacky. I thought that was 50-50 in my opinion. I thought they should have picked the flag up. I mean, I don't know if it was Roquan Smith. I can't remember who did it, but it was hard to see. But if you watch, I mean, it was pass interference when Roquan tripped Kenyon in the ball. And if Kenyon catches that, that's at least 20-30 yards down the sideline, if not a touchdown. I mean, that would have been a big chunk play there, and that was obviously a huge game. But he clearly tripped him. The refs didn't see it. But that was more ticky-tacky than... I mean, he did more on that play than, in my opinion, than Minka did. I mean, some of these pass interference calls are ridiculous, in my opinion. I mean, it's just ridiculous. So, the secondary didn't play great, but they were still injured, and they didn't get any help from their defensive line. The pass rush was god-awful this entire game, and what do you expect? I mean, Cameron Wake's not playing, Charles Harris didn't play, Woodard got hurt. I mean, we were playing with very little talent on that defensive line, and, I mean, unless, again, and that forced Matt Burke to blitz a lot, and, not a lot. I felt like, he had blitzed a lot, but it forced him to send pressure in crucial situations, and even when we didn't get pressure. And obviously the secondary, there was a lot of blown coverages, and that's something that we need to work on is our blitz packages, because we are god-awful. Anytime we blitz, that's when the bigger plays come from opposing offenses. That was a huge reason why we let up so many points in 2017, and, occasionally when we've done it this season, it's ended up in some big plays as well. So that's something that we have to work on. But again, the secondary, for the shortcomings of the defensive line, they didn't play terrible. They didn't play god awful. Torrey McTyer is definitely going to have to work on some things, but he's young, and this is his first few starting games, and he hasn't had an easy task. I mean, when it gets Brady, that was one of his worst games. And Cincinnati had a very good game, in my opinion. And then in this game, obviously, he got picked on a little bit. But, Taylor Gabriel is a very good route runner. I mean, you could put on... I mean, if people forget, he snapped. I mean, straight up snapped Malcolm Butler's ankles in the Super Bowl. He's a very, very good route runner, especially off play action and stuff of that nature. So, again, the secondary... I am making excuses for them. Because if they had any kind of, production from the defensive line, I think they would have had a way better game. It's kind of tough, I mean, we didn't get any pressure. And when we did, we allowed Trubisky to get, outside of the pocket a lot in this game. And that's a big reason why they had so many, second and third and shorts. So again, I'm going to make a huge excuse for them this game. Even though Torrey McTyer, he gave up a couple big plays, which I'm not excusing at all, but I think he is doing a solid job in place for Bobby, but definitely Bobby's going to help this defense a lot when he comes back. So again, overall, I thought the secondary did okay, okay to good job. Rashad Jones dropped that interception, which he never does. Jerome Baker. We'll get into the linebackers here in a second, but again, I thought the secondary did good enough for what they were dealing with on that defensive line and the down and distances that they had. I mean, that really opened up the playbook for Matt Nagy. I mean, he had everything on his play chart the entire game, so that's just tough. That's tough sledding as a secondary. And I thought they did a good, pretty good job. I mean, they turned the tide in this game, so yeah, with the interception in the end zone. Defensive line wise, how they did in the running game. Let's see here. I can't find. Okay, here we go. Jordan Howard finished 14 carries for 69 yards. He averaged 4.9 a carry, almost 5. Trubisky he had 8 carries for 47 yards. He averaged almost 6 yards a carry. Tariq Cohen, 5 carries for 31, averaged 6 yards a carry. Taylor Gabriel, 1 carry for 9. Benny Cunningham, 3 carries for 8 yards. They did again, we were so short on the defensive line. I would say some of the you guys just heard me talk about. I felt like the defensive line, they didn't play very well because at all. I think this is probably the worst game of the year. They just didn't get any pressure. I mean, Trubisky had a lot of time at times. I mean, ridiculous amounts of time to pass the football at times in this game. But some of the bright spots, I thought Woodard continues to produce at a pretty dang good level, which is a good thing. He's a high effort guy. Doesn't give up on plays, and he gets rewarded with sacks sometimes. I mean, he's a very good power player as well. I felt like Vincent Taylor continues to have a very, very good year. Obviously, getting the sack on Mitch Trubisky. You don't see too many defensive tackles running down Mitch Trubisky and keeping up with him in the backfield. He tried to put a move on Vincent. Vincent stayed home and made the sack. Some of the players I want to point out that need to play better. Robert Quinn, we need more production out of him. Granted, he's getting tripped. I mean, the man is the only playmaker we have on the defensive line position the last 2 weeks now, because Cam Wake's been hurt. Charles Harris, he had a very good game against Cincinnati. If he made some better tackles and had a better technique on some of those plays, we would have had, he would have had 2 or 3 sacks that game. So we didn't have anybody really, and we needed Robert Quinn to step up. He needs to play better when those players come back, because he really has had an underwhelming season so far, in my opinion. Especially since the preseason game he had. So he needs to step up, play a little bit better. The run defense wasn't bad. I say that because in overtime, there's a couple times where we needed to play big boy football and not give an inch, and we did that. So I'm going to give them huge props for that. They didn't allow a 100-yard rusher the entire game, even though there were some big pop runs here and there. But they did a pretty good job for how injured they were. Getting to the linebackers, let's see here. Kiko Alonso finished with 9 tackles. He had 2 assists. Raekwon McMillan finished with 5 tackles. He had 1 assist. Rashad Jones, 4 tackles, 1 assist. Torrey McTyer, he had 4 tackles. Woodard finished with 3. Xavier Howard finished with 3. He had a huge play on, I can't remember, they threw a screen, but he dumped him for a 5-yard loss. Just a great, what a great year he's having, and on the back end. Let's see here. Cordrea, he had two tackles there. He played pretty well. He didn't play terrible. Let's see here. Jerome Baker. Okay, I want to talk about this linebacker unit for a second. And I know we've talked about the defense for 10 minutes, but this defense is really good, especially when all of our players come back. It's a very, very good. It's going to be good for a long time. We got a lot of very, very talented young people on it, and I would have to say the linebackers are probably the most improved unit as a whole. Even though the secondary is really, really good. I would say they're tied. I mean, they've played very well so far this season. Jerome Baker, he had beat on that Tariq Cohen play, but that's a tough play to defend, especially Tariq Cohen's one of the best top 2 or 3 receiving backs in the National Football League, so I'm not going to, that is what it is, in my opinion. I mean, that is what it is. I think, Jerome Baker's having a phenomenal rookie season. Kiko Alonso's having a great year. His best year as a pro, in my opinion, so far. And Raekwon is getting better every single game. That touchdown Anthony Miller was not his fault. I don't know who, to be honest with you, I wonder if, I don't know if that was by design, and I don't understand that play. I don't know if who the heck was supposed to pick up the slot receiver on that. I don't know. I would have to go back and look at that play. But if anything, Raekwon, especially knowing personnel wise, Raekwon's one of the. I mean, in college, he was a tremendous blitzer. Um, you know, he was the reason he got drafted is because he was so good on line of scrimmage. So I don't understand. You know, he should have been one of the people blitzing. So I don't really. I'd have to go back and look at that play, but that was obviously some kind of busted coverage. But Raekwon's getting better every single game, as well. All right, so let's get into the offensive side of the football, which is obviously pretty much the reason why we won this game. And we're going to start with the passing game here. Brock Osweiler finished, he had 44 attempts. He completed 28 of them. He threw for 380 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Albert Wilson, one of the greatest performances a Miami Dolphin has ever had, in my opinion. He had 6 receptions for 155 yards, 25 yards a catch, and 2 touchdowns. Danny Amendola finished with 8 receptions for 59 yards. He averaged 7 yards a catch. Nick O'Leary, who's playing very well right now, 4 catches with 49 yards. Kenny Stills, 1 reception for 35. Jakeem Grant, 3 receptions for 32. Kenyon Drake, 4 receptions for 21. Frank Gore, 1 reception for 18. Mike Gesicki, 1 reception for 11 yards. Devontae Parker, 0 receptions for 0 yards. I guess we got to start with the quarterback, and then we'll get to the tight ends and receivers. I thought Brock Osweiler played very well in place of Tannehill. I think people are kind of overreacting. I mean, he threw for 380 yards, but if we're being honest, Albert Wilson, if we could give him the credit for almost all of those yards, I would. And I'm not taking anything. You know, what Brock did was outstanding. Going against the best defense in football, one of the nastiest pass rushers in football. I mean, they have playmakers on every level of the defense. You think about their D-line, they have Khalil Mack, Hakeem Spence, Leonard Floyd. You think about their linebackers, Danny Trevathan, Roquan Smith, and their back end, Adrian Amos and Eddie Jackson and Kyle Fuller. They have a very, very good defense, man. And Brock did a very good job of getting the ball out very quickly to his playmakers, accurately and on time. But I do think his performance overall, I don't know if anybody's saying this, but people who think Brock Osweiler should start over Tannehill are high out of their dang mind. There were, I mean, obviously that interception that he threw was the second one was terrible. It was late. You never throw late outside ever, and he really doesn't have the arm strength to. He doesn't have the arm strength to make that throw anyway. It was just a bad decision on him. The throw to Devontae Parker was a duck before halftime, and obviously that could have cost us 3 points. But I think overall Brock played very well. He made some. I mean, the throw to Kenny Stills in the back of the end zone. I mean, that was one heck of a throw. To keep the play alive and to have the awareness to understand the progressions of the play. And to make that throw is on another level. I mean, that is the next level quarterback play there from Brock Osweiler. He played very well in place of Tannehill. He made plays with his legs a couple times in this game. Obviously, the crazy play to Kenny Stills where it was tipped off of Danny Amendola's back, and then it hit Kenny Stills in the hands. He was making a play outside of the pocket there. He had a rush for 6-7 yards in the game. I mean, he played very well. I mean, improvised when he had to. He got the ball out quick and on time. Very accurate with the football. I thought he played very well. And again, Adam Gase getting him prepared. Obviously, he's coached this guy for a long time. I mean, really, the game plan was outstanding, and I thought Brock played very well in Tannehill's stead. With that being said, I guess we'll answer questions later. I'm not, because I feel like I'm, hating on the dude, but I'm not at all. He played outstanding football for us. But I think everyone needs to calm down a little bit, just a little bit, with Brock Osweiler. And I hate Brock. I've said this before, on the show many times, okay, that Brock Osweiler is not a very good quarterback, and I'm that is what it is. But I thought he played outstanding football today, and that takes a lot coming from me. Trust me, I've never ever liked Brock Osweiler. Rushing. We got to get into we skipped the receivers. The receivers played their best game of the. I mean, individually, I guess you could say they played their best game of the year. Albert Wilson, 6 receptions. Dude, some of those plays were out. That was Hall of Fame runs by Albert Wilson. I mean, that was Barry Sanders stuff right there, open field running. He is one of the most gifted open field runners in the National Football League. I mean, he is on another level, dude. He is on another level. The fact that, if you watch that, dude, I have watched, obviously, highlights of that game many times over since the game ended, and my heart still, dude, I'm telling you right now, I better take care of myself in my late 40s, early 50s, maybe into my 30s, for God's sakes, who knows? Because my heart was out of my body this entire game. I mean, seriously, I could barely stand up, for God's sakes, I was so nauseous. But, dude, the dramatic runs in this game, and going back to my original point, how many orange jerseys, Bears jerseys, were around him on the one after the Anthony Miller touchdown to tie the game is insane. The fact that he kept his balance in the touchdown before that on that jailbreak screen, the move that he put on the free safety to capitalize and finish that run for a touchdown is one of the sickest moves I have ever seen, dude. Watch that play again. He put these people on roller skates, ladies and gentlemen. It was like we're at the local roller skate park. We had toddlers falling down everywhere, babies crying, moms picking their kids up. It was ridiculous, guys. We had children throwing up everywhere. It was ridiculous what what Albert Wilson did on Sunday. It was absolutely ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. I think we did the entire receiving spiel. Other than that, I mean, Nick O'Leary has played very well. He had 4 receptions for 49 yards. It has to be a high for a tight end so far this season, and he averaged 12. He knows how to play football, and in Buffalo he played very well when he was in Buffalo. But he just understands the game of football. He's a really good run blocker. He knows when to check and release. If he's chipping on a play and helping, or if he's just straight up an extra blocker on a play, he knows when to release and give his quarterback an option to throw to. He did that a couple times this game. He just knows. He's a very football savvy football player, and he's playing very well for us. Obviously, Kenny Stills had the clutch 2-point conversion. Jakeem Grant had that sick double move for a big play. It was the first time I've ever seen him tackled in the open field like that. That's for sure. But overall, I mean, the passing game was on point this game, and we're gonna get into more Brock Osweiler here in a minute because I feel like I got a lot more to say about that. Frank Gore, the running game. This is where we have found our identity. When Tannehill comes back, this offense is going to be ridiculously good, and we're going to go through a couple of reasons why. But he had 15 carries, Frank Gore, 15 carries for 101 yards, he averaged 6 a carry. Frank Gore played amazing this game. The run at the end of the game in overtime to set us up for a goal, where I can't remember, I can't remember what the play was, but dude, my heart, oh my God, my heart was beating so hard. And then, on the plays preceding that one, I was watching the game with my mom and my dad, who are obviously Dolphins fans. Which was awesome to watch a game with them, obviously. But we were all wondering why in the God's name Frank Gore was out of the game at obviously 3rd and goal. I can't remember, but regardless, I don't even know why I brought that up. I was so upset that Frank Gore wasn't in there for 3rd and goal. I was like, God, why is he in there? But tremendous game. But I really do feel like this is the identity of this team. I mean, Juwan James had his best game of the season by far, one of his best games of his career. Especially run blocking. He threw a couple of huge blocks in this game. But that's why Frank Gore, I mean, at his age, to continue to play at that high of a level, that's why Frank's one of the best ever. Getting into Kenyon Drake, obviously had the huge fumble on the goal line. If you guys remember a play, last game of the season last year, David Fales had a touchdown on that exact same play. Literally. I think it was the same formation and everything. if I can remember correctly. I'm pretty sure it was. If Brock keeps that ball, he probably would have walked in for the game-winning touchdown. Regardless, I thought Kenyon Drake had a very good game. I thought he had a very good game in the pass game and the receiving. I think he had 100 total yards. Let me see here. No, he almost had. He had 70 total yards, but other than the fumble, he played a pretty good football game. The running game is where it's at, guys. That is the identity of this football team. I thought the offensive line had by far their best game of the season, especially when you talk about Khalil Mack. And obviously, Khalil Mack was dealing with some ankle. He had ankle issues the entire game, but still, I thought we played tremendous football, especially run blocking. Jesse Davis is so much better than he was last year, and obviously Ted Larson played a very good game. Swanson, we had a very very good game, and that is the identity of this football team. Running the football, we have two super talented running backs, uber talented running backs. That's something we should have done the entire season, to be honest with you, because Adam Gase is such a creative play caller. When we motion Albert Wilson around, and we have, in my opinion, some of the best play action packages in the National Football League. Is up there with Kyle Shanahan, in my opinion. When we play fake the ball, it obviously we were play actioning when we weren't even running the ball, and we were getting big plays. If you look at past games. But we have to make people respect the running game, and if we do that, we're going to win a ton of games this year. I mean, that almost makes our offense, and I'm not joking around, almost unstoppable, in my opinion. With the playmakers that we have on this football team, if we get that running game going with Frank Gore over 100 yards and Kenny Drake right there with him, this offense is going to be ridiculously good. So, with that being said, I don't want to take too long on the news because I feel like we always do, but I don't want to rush it either. So let's get into the news. This first news story comes from ESPN. Is Albert Wilson the best yak receiver in the National Football League? That comes from ESPN, and obviously yak is yards after catch. This guy again comes from ESPN. Albert Wilson took Dress How You Want to Be Addressed at Heart Sunday. He rocked a clean Detroit throwback Barry Sanders jersey to Hard Rock Stadium and went to pull off his best impression of the Hall of Fame running back with the career. Dude, I compared it to Barry Sanders. Didn't even read this article. Okay, I'm not the only one out here thinking things. Jersey on Hard Rock Stadium and went off to pull off his best impression of Barry Sanders, the Hall of Famer, in an overtime victory against the Chicago Bears. Dolphins coach Adam Gase had a clear plan for Wilson, who Miami signed to a 3-year, $24 million deal in free agency. He started the season as the team's fourth receiver, which led to many questions about his role. But he has emerged as the team's top playmaker and leading receiver. Yeah, he's the best. I mean, dude, I can't even express how talented of a football player you have to be to do what he did 2 times on Sunday. He reminds me, Keenan Allen, gets off the line of scrimmage on his releases. Albert Wilson does that during the play, dude. Like, he puts people on roller skates, ladies and gentlemen. He is so good in the open field, and he has been the entire season. I mean, it's ridiculous. Jarvis was, really, really good in the open field as well. I mean, all you had to do was really get the ball in his hands, and we've seen him have some ridiculous runs after the catch. Albert Wilson has that ability, and he's strong too. He is really hard, not just elusive, but he's really strong. And he's hard to tackle. You have to really bring everything you've got in the tank to bring him down. Obviously not just finesse-wise, but power-wise. He has that Jarvis Landry open field ability, but with ridiculous amounts of speed, and he is a very good receiver. He fits this offense to a T, by the way. If he could just get his route running together, he could be the Julian Edelman kind of a receiver for our offense, but with a lot more speed and a lot more game-breaking ability. Like, he can be that, inside player, that jewel to the offense that Julian is for New England, for us. So, yeah, he's playing outstanding football. Dolphins. This next question. This next news story comes from Dolphins Wire. Dolphins coach Adam Gase says linebacker Kiko Alonso has, quote, been outstanding. During his press conference on Monday morning, head coach Adam Gase was asked what player out of wide receiver Albert Wilson running back Frank Gore and linebacker Kiko Alonso would he most like to gloat about the most? Because I don't know about Frank. That's not what was asked. I watched that press conference. What was asked was, basically what the media, whoever was asked, I can't remember who was asking the question, but they asked, since the media, basically was what they said, I can't remember exactly what this, but it was in this vein. They said, the media obviously giving you a hard time of all the decisions you've made since you've been down here in Miami. What was the thing that we've been most wrong about? And he said Kiko Alonso. So that's what he said. This is what Gay said right after the question was asked. He said, probably Kiko Alonso. He's been outstanding this year. It's been fun to watch him. The way we spoke about how we wanted to create turnovers and how we wanted to fly to the ball and really attack ball carriers and get the ball out. The last 2 weeks he's made huge plays for us at critical times. It's harder to disagree with Gase's comments after last season when he struggled in pass coverage situations with tight ends and running backs. Alonso is having a bounce-back season. Alonso, along with Rashad Jones, Xavier Howard, and T.J. McDonald, have been the catalyst to the Dolphins' defense during the team's 6 games of the season. Alonso himself has been playing at a Pro Bowl level, as he's second in the NFL with 61 tackles, along with registering 3 forced fumbles, 1 recovery, and 2 interceptions. In Sunday's 31-28 overtime victory over the Bears, Alonso led the Dolphins with 11 tackles and a fumbled recovery. He was also involved in 2 plays that prevented the Bears from scoring. Kiko is a ridiculously good football player, and he's showing that this season. And I'm one of the people, especially in 2017. I mean, everything was going wrong in 2017. I don't even want to talk about that season. It makes me sick to my stomach. It was such a terrible year for us fans, but everything was going wrong that season. So, a lot of us, including me, were getting onto Kiko Alonso's case. I feel like what the Dolphins did to address Kiko's, not putting the entire defense on him. We needed him to be the linchpin of the defense. We needed him to be the coverage specialist of the defense. We needed him to do so many different things. He had such a really, really, really big workload this season since we drafted Jerome Baker, who is our coverage specialist at linebacker. We have Raekwon McMillan, who can be that rover on the line of scrimmage, who can be the linchpin of the defense, and make plays, on the line of scrimmage and in the trenches. Kiko Alonso really can just move around and do whatever that, be Kiko Alonso, and he does have that sideline to sideline talent, and he's really, I feel like we just really have relieved a lot of pressure on him and surrounded him with better players, and he's responding to that and playing his best football of his career, in my opinion. This next news story comes from the Detroit Press. Tannehill or Osweiler, Detroit Lions concerned more with Frank Gore. Ryan Tannehill or Brock Osweiler. No one knows who's starting at quarterback this week for the Miami Dolphins against the Detroit Lions. What's more, no one seems to care about it either. They're not different at all. Lions linebacker Eli Harold said Monday, Osweiler doesn't miss a beat. Obviously, he's familiar with the system, being in Denver, and he had those guys clicking on all cylinders. The exact timeline of Tannehill's shoulder injury is unclear, though the coach Adam Gase says it could have happened on October 7th against the Bengals. He missed Sunday's game, went over the Bears. This is what Matt Patricia had to say about facing us in our quarterback situation. He said, quote, "We're going to have to address the guys as we go through the course of the week. I'm not really knowing the full injury situation down there. We'll read the reports as you guys do. But I would say with Brock, he's a very competitive guy. He's big, long, tall. I faced him a couple times before in the past, and he's someone that's had some success against me in the past individually, a very competitive guy. You try to take a look at both players individually. There's a scheme that's behind it, all of it. That's probably the first and foremost thing that we'll attack right now and try to drive into. Their system is their system," he said. This is still Matt Patricia talking. They might do different things for that quarterback, but I don't think it would change a whole lot. It would still be the same thing. Osweiler has a great arm strength, and Ryan Tannehill has great arm strength as well. I would disagree with that, but it's not like a huge difference. But I do still think Tannehill has a lot more arm strength than. At least he just drives the ball harder. I don't know what when you see him throw the football. That's interesting. I feel like we should talk about that. not just to talk trash or anything, but the Detroit defense isn't great. I mean, they don't have a lot of really good pass rushers. They have Zeke Alonso's pretty good, but he's inconsistent. Their back end is really old, and obviously Darius Slay is by far their best set. Oliver Quinn's still there. They lost Terrier Whitehead, who was had a had good career in Detroit. So, I mean, I really, whoever starts that game, I don't think is going to matter as much because that defense isn't ridiculous. I mean, they're well coached, but I'm just saying it's not the toughest defense in the world, is what I'm saying. The backbone of that team is their offense. So, yeah. So let's get into the big topic of the week. This is a thing that we do. This is a segment we do every week where I just bring up something that I have found interesting that maybe other people have missed. I found it very interesting. Obviously, Adam Gase and Peyton Manning have a very close relationship. Manning was there for the overtime victory against the Chicago Bears. He was sitting up in the press box with Dan Marino. I think he had his kid with him. That was really cool to see two great quarterbacks. Obviously, Peyton Manning grew up a Dolphins fan, kind of. Obviously, he grew up a Saints fan. He grew up in Louisiana, but he always said that Dan Marino was his favorite quarterback, and obviously he watched the Dolphins a ton. He even watched our 70s teams, too. So I thought that, it was really cool. Some old interview you guys can find. I don't know where he was talking about the Dolphins, but so he has history of watching us in the past too. So that was just really cool to see two people like that rooting our team on, that are legends. But the reason I bring this up is Peyton Manning is obviously, there have been rumors that he's looking for a job in football. He's obviously taken a few years off now, and he's looking, either commentating or being an executive of some sort. And I got a feeling that, hey, Adam Gase is really good friends with him. Peyton said that was the greatest offense coordinator he's ever had. He has ties to Miami. He has a good relationship with Dan Marino. Obviously, he watched the organization growing up. It just makes me wonder. I know we have Mike Tannenbaum as VP right now. I really feel like Chris Grier has done a really good job drafting this team. And if Adam Gase does have the final say on draft day, which I don't know if he does or not, but I know he puts his input in, but I really feel like we've done a good job of collecting talent, better than any other regime has over the last 20 years. I think they're consistently getting good players out of every single draft, not just one, but multiple. So it's not like we need Peyton Manning, but still, man, I feel like he would be a great addition to this football team and this organization for sure. So, I mean, I'm not saying we have to fire up Mike Tannenbaum, and you don't need too many cooks in the kitchen, obviously, but he's Peyton Manning. And if that opportunity arose, I really feel like Stephen Ross and Adam Gase would definitely go for it. I just thought that was something cool to bring up, maybe that could possibly happen down the road. Who knows? But there's a lot of connections there, which I find very interesting. And if Peyton is looking for an executive position like John Elway, I always wondered why Dan never did it. Because Dan obviously is an affiliate for this team, but he doesn't have any serious role. He's in team meetings and stuff of that nature. But he talks to quarterbacks and stuff, but that's about it. But to have Peyton Manning in the organization in the front office would be huge. So I thought that was something that could happen down the road, and it could very well happen. So let's get into the fan, and let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you made it 38 minutes into this video, God bless you. God only knows, dude, I can't sit in my voice half the dang time. So the fact that you guys listen this long is really cool. Into the video. So let's get into the fan Q&A. Obviously, the segment where we answer fans' questions each and every single week. If you want to be involved in that, I would hope to God you would at least go check out the channel if you've listened 30 minutes in. Okay? You guys asked 38 questions, which is awesome. A lot. Awesome. Voice crack. Which is awesome. This first question comes from Prince of DC is back. He says, how do you feel the Dolphins defense played in the second half? Like I said, it was very tough for them because that playbook is obviously their play caller in that playbook, Matt Nagy, super, super creative and really does a good job of moving his playmakers around and getting them in the best situations possible. And he had that, his entire playbook was open. You know, that's one thing that Adam Gase should be an excuse for him, is because he's always in 3rd and 10. The playbook shortens, right? If you're in 3rd and 3, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 5, I mean, you can call any play you want at that point. You can call a shot play, a deep play, any play. All the big plays, most of them, were because of the defensive line. They just weren't able to get a consistent enough. They just weren't able to get consistent enough penetration in this game. When we did have our 3rd and long situations, we did get home to the quarterback. And some of those plays, our secondary didn't defend long enough. So some of it went hand in hand, but mostly it was the defensive line not being able to put the Bears in third and long situations on a consistent enough basis. And when we did have 3rd downs, obviously, it's very hard to get our pass rush going when the ball's getting out of your hands so quick. But there were times where the secondary did lock up, and Trubisky did hold on to the ball, but we weren't getting home to the quarterback. So I would say the defense played good enough to get the win, obviously, because they got the turnovers that they did that we needed. 2 very key turnovers in that second half, the fumble and the interception. So it's a very hard to I don't want to say they played bad because they did get those turnovers. I would say it was okay. But really, if this defense wants to continue to be special, which I think they have, again, we have very good linebacker core, which is ridiculous that I'm even saying that as a Dolphins fan after almost 10 years of just ridiculousness, and a very, very good secondary as well. The defensive line, we have people, Vincent Taylor, who's having a really good season, probably the best season out of any D lineman. Woodard, who's come on really, really well for us. Charles Harris was playing when he did get his opportunity in that Bengals game, but he got hurt, obviously didn't play. We just need the defensive line to step up, which they will when they get healthy again. John Nolan, this question comes from John Nolan. That was a great question, Prince, by the way. This question comes from John Nolan. He says, should we start Osweiler? Can he really be worse than Tanny the past 2 weeks? People, listen. Tannehill had 2 bad games. The team had 1 bad game. He had 1 bad, that Patriots game, the entire team was playing terrible. And it's very hard to win up in Foxborough. We've seen that over the last few weeks in other games. But Tannehill, I'm sick and tired of saying the same things over and over again. I think Tannehill is a franchise quarterback, and I'll continue to say that. If we get this running game going, if you guys look at his record, when he's had any type of running game, he has a well over above 500 record when he has a good running game. It's not even close. If the running game is going, and we have Tannehill, who is a supremely underrated deep ball thrower and a very accurate passer when people are open, this offense can be one of the best in the National Football League, and I'm not even joking around. This offense is better with number 17 in the backfield calling the shots than it is with number 8. That's not even close. I don't want to hate on Brock Osweiler because he played very well in place of Tannehill. I thought the best thing he did all day was making quick decisions and getting the ball out quick and accurately. Tannehill is just a better overall player in my opinion. He's a more accurate thrower. I think he makes better decisions than Brock does. I don't even think that's close. I just think he puts the team in a better position to win. I think he's a better play action player than Brock is. I think he's a better deep ball thrower than Brock is. I think he can drive the ball better than Brock. Adam Gase said before the game, and you could just see it. I mean, anybody can see that if you watch him play. Just the way the ball is in the air with Brock, and especially on deep balls, and the way the ball is with Tannehill. Adam said before the game that the routes have to tighten up because Tannehill has more arm strength than Brock. You have to quicken your routes. So I just feel like Tannehill brings a whole another element to this game, and I think people give Tannehill way too much hate. I still think he's a franchise guy. I think he's a way better quarterback than Brock. So I think Tannehill should start. And I'm serious. If we can get this run game going on a consistent basis, then, and that should be the number one focal point of this offense, then literally this team will be rolling. Because one thing that 2016 team didn't have was defense. This year, we have a very good young defense. So if this offense gets rolling, will be one of the best teams in the National Football League and one of the best offenses as well. So no question about it. I think Tannehill should start when he comes back. Douglas Ward. This question comes from Douglas Ward. He says, I haven't seen much development of Mike Gesicki so far. What's your thoughts? When we get this running game going, and like Adam Gase has said, for his excuse why Mike Gesicki hasn't been getting going is because we haven't had a lot of plays. We've been in a lot of 3rd down and 10 pluses where he's had to block a lot and not really get him going in the passing game. I feel like if we could continue to get this run game going and continue to get 3rd and shorts, 2nd and shorts, which is what we did against the Bears, and which is what we should do every game because of our running backs that we have, then you're going to see a lot more production out of him. I really feel like it's the way the team has played, especially over the last 2 weeks. Because of that, that is why you haven't seen the production that we've expected to see out of him so far, and I think look for him to continue to play very well. That being said, Nick O'Leary has played very well for us, but if we could just get more drives going, Gesicki's going to make a lot of splash plays, especially when we get into opponent's territory. This question comes from Jeremy. He says, question, is Nick O'Leary going to be our new starting tight end over Derby when he comes back? I think he definitely should be the starting tight end over Derby. I think Gesicki situationally should be in there, obviously, in certain situations, and I feel like we should definitely keep throwing him in the fire and keep developing him. But Nick O'Leary is played very well, so he should definitely get the bulk of the reps there. Gamerific says, should we trade Brock since the team made him look good, and what should we trade for him for? No, absolutely not. The entire National Football League and every fan in the National Football League knows what Brock Osweiler is. Okay? Adam Gase is just one heck of a coach, and we have one heck of a team surrounding Brock. So no team is going to look and be like, yeah, we got to, Adam Gase, like I said, is just one heck of a play caller, and we have a good team surrounding Brock. It's no team wants Brock Osweiler, is basically what I'm trying to say. Ethan says, this question comes from Ethan Jesse, I think is his name. He says, how do you think Adam Gase's play calling was? I thought it was the best game so far. It was the best game so far, like I said. We just gotten really good down and distances. He stuck to the running game. And you know what? Some of that is on Adam. Talking about how Adam's always complaining how we're always 3rd and 10 plus. We toned down the screen game until later in the game when they started sending a lot of heat. And that's when he, started calling screens. The running game he stuck to, and he'll have his wish if we keep running the football. We will have 3rd and shorts, we will have 2nd and shorts, and that opens up the playbook, and you get to see some of that creativity and see the reason why Adam Gase was a highly coveted head coach when he was out there, and you get to see why he broke, obviously having the 55 touchdowns with Peyton Manning, broke all the offensive records in NFL history when he was the play caller there for Denver. You'll see more of that if we get more down and distances. But yeah, I agree with you. That was the best game so far, and I thought he had a tremendous play calling game for sure. This year, that was his best game. Tremendous game plan as well. This question comes from Jagpack. He says, I feel the defense is playing great, even though they get burned occasionally. What position should they draft on that side of the ball to take them to the next level? I'd like to see them take a D and not sold on Charles Harris and maybe another linebacker. I think the linebacker, for depth probably, maybe in the later rounds, but the 3 linebackers we have now are going to be pretty good. Defensive line, I'm going to hold off on for maybe a couple, I don't know. I just got to see everybody healthy again because they're not playing. A lot of injuries, obviously, but they need to play better. Because if they play good, if they play like they should in the talent that they have, we're going to be, this defense will be one of the best in the National Football League statistically. I think they are. They're obviously, yards and that kind of stuff ranking wise. We're not that high, but I think with the eyeball test when everybody's healthy, we're one of the best defenses in the National Football League. Obviously, we're one of the best at getting the ball. We're one of the best I've ever seen at turning the ball over in the red zone. So yeah, we just got to get that defense, the D line going. So if I have to answer that question right now, and the draft is right now as I'm talking, then I would say defensive end. If it's defensive, if it has to be on the defensive side of the football. Jackpack. Gamerific says, "Holy poop butter! That was my very first Dolphins game. How the heck did we win with Brock Osweiler? Do you mean that was your favorite, the first game you've ever been to? I need clarification for that in the comment section below this video. We just had a great game plan, and Adam Gase did a good job getting the team ready, and the running backs had a really good game, and so did the offensive line. They had their best game of the year." Brandon says, "Our offense scored 31 points. Do you think we will have a quarterback controversy if Ryan comes back and stinks it up?" He's not going to come back and stink it up, and we would have had 31 points with him. I mean, the big touchdowns of this game were, Brock Osweiler did the Chicago Bears shoulder shrug against Chicago, because what Albert Wilson did was Michael Jordan level stuff, guys. I mean, that was some ridiculous open field running by Albert Wilson. It has nothing to do, Tannehill, if he comes back, to me, will be even a better team, and if we get this run game going, we'll be one of the best offenses in the National Football League. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, "Xavier's hands will be full next week, having to deal with Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, and Galladay. How do you think we will do schematically?" Golden Tate's a tough player, and he usually lines up in the slot anyway. I don't think Xavier's going to follow him down there, so he'll probably have Marvin, maybe Galladay, but Galladay's an underrated player. If Bobby comes back, how I would deal with it, I would obviously, if we can get Minka on Golden Tate, I love that matchup, because Minka's a great open field tackler, and Golden Tate makes all of his big plays at yards after the catch. I'd put Xavier on Galladay, and I would put on Bobby on Marvin. Brandon says, this question comes from Brandon. He says, "I think Gesicki should be used more like he has shown flashes, and I think he could be a force." Yeah, we just got to keep getting those down to distances. You're going to see more. Every time we've run spread, we've done we've done terribly at blocking every time we spread the ball out. So if we can do a better job of blocking on that particular formation, and we line up Gesicki out wide like that, then he'll eat. And if we can get him out wide at any point in the game, even if we have two tight end personnel, stuff of that nature, his production will go way, way, way up. So, and especially in the red zone, we keep throwing him some fades, he'll be just fine. This next question comes from Brandon. Says, how long until Brock Osweiler begins to Jay Cutler everything up? If I'm being 1,000% with you right now, I hope he doesn't. I hope Tannehill comes back this upcoming week. I'm not saying I don't have any confidence in Brock Osweiler that we can win with him going down the line. I'm just saying, faster Tannehill can get back healthy, the better. This question comes from Will. He says, what do you think of Brock Osweiler's press conference? He was really trying to sell Gase and the organization on him being the starter. Tannehill might get healthy real quick next week due to pressure. Yeah, I think I saw his press conference, obviously. I think every Dolphins fan did, especially after that win. But I think he truly means what he says. Talking about how great of a coach, and the reason he came down here is because of Coach Gase and how great of a coach Gase is. He said that before he got here. He said that when he arrived. He said that in Cleveland when they asked him about Coach Gase. If the Bears are trying to trade for him when we lost, or the Dolphins are trying to trade for him when we lost Tannehill for the year. He said that about Coach Gase, how much he loved him, how great of a coach he is. So, yeah, I think he was sincere about that. But I get what you're saying. And I don't think you were saying he wasn't unsincere, but I understand what you're saying. It was very preachy. McCain says, "Fool's gold we found today. Parky gift For his teammates, thanks, Parkey. We owe you one. I don't think it had anything. I mean, Cody Parkey, that was a 52-yard field goal. That's not an easy field goal to kick. I mean, at all. So, I don't think that was a gift at all. And I felt like we played very hard. And dude, you talk about gifts. Let's say they do make that field goal, which hurts my soul to even say, but talk about gifts. We gave them one when we fumbled on the 1-yard line. I mean, there were no gifts given in this game. Everything was earned. Everything was earned in that game. So I couldn't disagree with you more that was a gift. I don't even think that was a question. I think that was just a comment. So I apologize for that. This next question comes from Mark. He says Miami's defense has 11 interceptions, 10 sacks, which has got to get better. You're only 10 sacks. 4 fumbles on the season. Gore and Drake average 4, almost 5 yards a carry, attempt respectively. Wouldn't running the ball, controlling the clock more, limit the time our defense is on the field, and give us a better shot at winning. I think the secondary is really good. We lead the league in interceptions, I think, still this week. I think Seattle's second. The defensive line has to play better, and hopefully that's due to health. The running game is really good if we can just keep that one going. So, yeah. But I think you're underselling the defense just a little bit. But I think running the football, getting us in more favorable down the distance is going to help this team tremendously. Corporate Gamer says, what would you expect of the game if Tannehill played? Same result, if not better, if not less turnovers. That throw to Devontae Parker, while it may look like, hey, that was going to be pick either way, if you throw that high and outside, that's either going to be broken up or Devontae jumps up and gets a ridiculously high catch. He didn't give DP a chance to high point it. He threw it, I mean, the ball was underthrown and it was too low. Even though the safety was coming over, you can still give DP a chance to jump up over everybody and catch it. It was just too high. It was definitely too high, and it was weak. It was a weak throw, and it was too far inside to be intercepted. So I think you would have seen less turnovers, I think, if Tannehill played. This next question comes from Brandon. He says, do you think we trade Devontae Parker? If so, for what he be worth? Not much, dude. Not much. But he's got to show up on game day. He just has to. He was going to get to the corner of Kyle Fuller, although I think he was lining up against Kenny anyway. I don't think DP got a lot of snaps, so we have that. I mean, our receiver corps is just fine without him. They're doing just fine without him, at least. This next question comes from Will. He says, I love how Gase takes care of Drake and his players. Whenever they mess up, Kenny. Oh, I'm sorry, my thing jacked up and shot me back up there. Hang on. Kenny's second touchdown of the season happened after he dropped the pass previously. Your thoughts on how he builds players' confidence as long as they're team guys? I love it. I love how, everybody in that locker room loves him. I think that's one, Adam Gase is so aggressive in his conferences. When the national media talks about him, it's like he's some cold heart. He's not. He loves his team. He said it multiple times. He said this is the best locker room he's ever had as a coach. The team loves him. It's way more lovey-dovey than you think. And he goes to bat for his team. He really rarely ever criticizes a player in the media. Very rarely, especially individually. And if he does, it's never harsh. It's not like Bill Parcells where, you rip some dude's heart out. He has great respect for his team. Let's see here. Hopefully we get through all the questions. We're running a little close here. This next question comes from Will. He says, it really felt like all the bad calls and karma from our last two games was lifted by the football gods. When you think about our secondary, god dang it, can I load the rest of this comment? We might have to move on, Will, because this thing is breaking. I'm trying to hurry up. Our secondary plays their best game in the red zone. What do you think is the key to their success so far? The offense just got to play better, and the D-line's got to play better. But the success of this year has been the secondary has been very good. The linebacker core has been much improved. The offense, for what it's worth, has made splash plays, and we've improved the speed on the offense. But if we continue to run the football at a high level, this D-line gets healthy, then this team is a force to be reckoned with. Matthew says, could you see us making any possible trades to help push this team to the next level? This last question of the day. No, because there are a couple players of no. I mean, Hassan Reddick. They've really messed him up because they've really transformed his body, especially into a linebacker. But if they used him as a defensive end, I would say Hassan for sure. But not really. There's nobody I could think of. Pat P's apparently up there, but I don't know if we really need him. But yeah, so that is going to be it for this week, guys. One heck of a game. And I can't wait to see you guys in the next one.